We did treat it as an adventure as children. The weight and responsibility of it was on the shoulders of our parents, there's no doubt about it. I was born in 1936 at Hampstead in London. I can remember when the war started, I can remember the army vehicles on the streets. And then a bit later, when the Blitz had really started and I'd seen the East End burning and the dock area, it burnt for days, you could see the black smoke. We went for a bit of respite with a relative who lived it was still in London, but on the outskirts, my Uncle Joe. And while we were staying there, our house was bombed. We went back, we gathered up a few personal belongings, clothing, put them in suitcases and moved down to Brighton to live with my gran. She had a big 3-storey house, we moved in there and that's where we stayed, in fact, where I was brought up. So as soon as we moved to Brighton, I went to school, St Mark's School, which was only a couple of minutes walk away from where my gran's was. Most of the teachers there were elderly women who'd come out of retirement because the younger teachers had gone away to war. I'm looking at the air raid shelter now, and there were 3 entrances. They all led into the same air raid shelter, but you could get all the school down there much quicker with the 3 entrances. I remember going down there, single file, don't run. You'd file along, turn round and sit down, and that's where you stayed until the all clear came, and then you filed back out again. One of the first times we went down, you could hear the guns outside and perhaps the engine noise, but not a lot going on. We took pencils with us to do work, but we had slatted seats and the pencils went through the paper, so you couldn't really do much. So the next time we went down, we took slates, chalk and dusters with us to do lessons. We tried to sing and couldn't, we weren't that enthusiastic, and somebody tried to read a story out of a book. Miss Barnett, she was good at reading books, I'll give her that. She always used to read to us every afternoon, but because of what you were listening to outside, you couldn't concentrate. And as soon as the all clear went, we wanted to get out of there because it was quite claustrophobic. Anybody that suffered with that sort of illness or complaint or whatever, they wouldn't have liked it down there. And we had the loos there, which were just buckets with a seat on the top, L sands, and they smelt very strongly of disappointment. And I remember the teacher saying, don't use the loos unless you really have to, and certainly don't use number 2s. But I never ever remember seeing anybody use them. They were probably too embarrassed. Sometimes in the air raid shelters they were down there for a great length of time, but the Brighton hit and run raids, they were over very quickly. So in the end we just went down there and they knew it wouldn't be long, sat for 10-15 minutes, raid over, back out again. The air raid siren went as I got home for the midday meal, which in those days was dinner. The evening meal was tea with bread and jam. I got indoors and my mum said to me, where's Barbara, my younger sister? I said, well, she's coming home, she's still down the road. She said, the air raid siren's gone, go and find her. So I walked back down the road, it's only 3 minutes walk from our house, and outside a local chemist shop, my sister was talking to Mrs. DeWitt, her teacher, and PC Barker, a local policeman. Come on, Barbara, you've got to come home. Got home, all hell let loose, the school was bombed, the gasworks, they had to go at those, and they swept across the town. When the raid was finished, it was only about 10 minutes, the whole thing was over. The all clear went, all the kids were dancing in the street. So I said, what's going on? They said, the school's been bombed. Whee! So we go down the road to see the school, outside the chemist, covered up, the bodies of Mrs. DeWitt, PC Barker. The blast of the school had come across the road and killed both of them. So if I hadn't gone to get my sister, she would have probably been with them. The Odeon, which wasn't far from where we lived, was bombed. It was bombed in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. when it was mothers and children on a matinee. 52 people died that day. 85 were seriously injured, a lot dying of their injuries, and there were hundreds of minor injuries. A later friend of mine, Philip Mars, lost 2 fingers, and he used to joke about it. He used to do all this business, look at this, and all that. He used to joke. And it's the same with Raymond Cox. He lost his leg. When he first lost his leg, he was on crutches. He got a false leg later on. But when he was on crutches, he was everybody's mate, because they used to use his crutches as make-believe machine guns. He was very popular, Raymond, with his crutches. All this sort of thing as children you saw. Nobody sort of thought much about it at the time. But what with that, and our school being bombed, we had to go into temporary accommodation for about 6 to 9 months, and all the other things that went on, it's surprising that we survived the way we did. We did treat it as an adventure as children. The weight and responsibility of it was on the shoulders of our parents, there's no doubt about it. But it must have had some effect on us. What with all that and our interrupted education, you can't just push it aside and say, well, that's nothing. I mean, a lot of what went on we only heard about, but a lot of it we did witness. In fact, when I look back, I did witness quite a bit.